How to fix Darkmoon Faire. Again, this is a really powerful expansion where a lot of these cards are still seeing some play in some way, shape, or form. So I might not even be able to touch 2 or 3 cards per class. When you look at these cards, a lot of them still are pretty good. Umbral Owl, Solar Eclipse, Lunar Eclipse, what else? Eldari Studies, Fellfire Deadeye, stuff like that. These cards are still quite good. So it's going to be hard to really be able to, know what cards change, stuff like that. So cut me some slack as I go through this one. I think first, Throwglaive. This used to actually be a pretty decent card. It's hard to justify a card like this ever anymore, though, because of like this temporary copy thing. I don't think you even need to do that. I think you just say add a copy of this to your hand. Don't need the temporary keyword at all. This now makes, a sort of like control Demon Hunter significantly better because you have this repeatable 1-mana deal 2 spell. As long as you're killing minions, it'll keep repeating over and over and over again, and that's quite powerful, I'm gonna admit. Having that temporary effect is definitely holding it back for sure. Is Demon Hunter capable of playing a slow kind of control game plan where Throwglaive would make sense? I'd say probably not, but there's always the future. In 10 more years, there's no way that Demon Hunter doesn't get at least one control deck at some point. So Throwglaive being fixed to maybe help that deck definitely seems like a good direction. Another good card from this expansion is Bladed Lady. This saw a lot of play in Standard for sure. I think what you do is you just bump every single number down to 5. Cost 1 if your hero has 5 or more attack, then it's a 5-mana 5/5. So now you can run this in Odd Demon Hunter, and boom, Odd Demon Hunter gets a giant significant buff. You can play this on like turn 3 typically. Not that hard. It's not that hard to play this on turn 3. You have like your hero power, of course, gives you 2. Then if you play like Burning Heart, you can play it on 3. You can play it like with the coin and like some, what's it called? Hero powers with, what's it called? Twin Slice. You can play it on 3 that way. But typically, this is like a 1-mana 5/5 on like turn 4, I would say. The turn 3 is a bit of a high roll, but you can do it. Is that too strong for Wild? Not even slightly to have a 1-mana 5/5 on turn 4. Not even slightly too strong for Wild. It would help Odd Demon Hunter out significantly, and I think this would be a very good change. Moon Touched Amulet. So this card is just like completely redundant in today's game. It doesn't really do anything. If you want to get cheap +4 attack, you would rather play a Harmonic Mood when it turns into Dissonant Mood. And I'm thinking, okay, it could be 2 mana and then give 4 armor as the corrupt. 2 mana, gain 4 attack. Definitely fair. Not really within question. It's weak even. And then you have to corrupt it for it to be able to do anything. So corrupt already is a relatively slow keyword, so it can be more powerful. So, of course, 2 mana, gain 4 attack, gain 4 armor would be quite good. I think this card would probably see some play in Druid. Maybe even Druid. It would definitely see play in even Druid. You don't care that much about the armor from your Harmonic Mood. You care about the 4 attack, so this would replace Harmonic Mood in that deck. So that alone already tells you that this is like powerful. The corrupt doesn't matter that much, but I still think you had to nerf it a little bit because it would probably be too strong if it were still gain 6 armor for like a slower Druid. But at gain 4, it's definitely fair. It's good. It's just a big pile of stats card as well. You are effectively you're effectively swinging 8 damage if you hit your opponent in the face with this. You deal 4 to them and you heal 4. Very powerful. Kiri, Chosen of Elune. This card is bad. It's actually weirdly bad because both Lunar and Solar Eclipse are very good. It's just Kiri has never been good enough. It's always been understated. It's always been not great. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? 2 mana 2/2 this time. Maybe it'll see play at 2 mana. Because getting a Solar Eclipse and a Lunar Eclipse is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. It's just the 3 mana tax to get those is like so weird. It's so much for no reason. So I think, putting it to 2 mana probably helps a lot. Will this see play in even Druid? Probably, I would say. in like a slow Reno Druid? Maybe actually. I think like a slow Reno Druid would really like this. Now it gives them like effectively ramp, if you think about it, because or like it helps them towards their ramp, I should say, because you can double it up with the solar eclipse, and you have lunar eclipse that helps you cheat the mana and all that. So it definitely is useful, like incredibly useful to have Kiri being 2 mana like this, especially since it has a 2/2 body and it's always had a 2/2 body. I don't really feel like it makes sense to change to be like a 3/3 or a 3/4. Keep it at 3 mana. It wouldn't make the card any better. Maxima Blastenheimer. I really like this card, actually. I think it's really fun to play with, your, sorry, what's it called? The Rivendare combo and stuff like that. But it's kind of not that great for, like, a big hunter-style deck because, like, you play Maxima and then your minion dies. It's fine for, like, a Death Rattle deck, but Death Rattle decks don't really care about Maxima in any way, shape, or form. So I'm thinking, okay, what if you have then dies if it has a Death Rattle? That specifically. Summon a minion from your deck. It attacks the enemy hero, then dies if it has a Death Rattle. So you could pull like King Crush from your deck. It'll attack your opponent's face, and then because it has charge, it can attack again. And it wouldn't die instantly like how Maxima is. But this doesn't affect things like the Rivendare combo at all, because Maxima would kill it still, because Rivendare has a Death Rattle. I actually really like this change, I'm not going to lie. Potentially you can make it, like 5 mana. That would probably help as well. Instead of just a little bit of a text change, probably be like a 5 mana 5/5, because the 4/4 is just... Why? Don't ask me why it's a 4/4. But this keeps the essence of it killing the minion when it's a Death Rattle, but if it's not a Death Rattle, like if you're trying to play like a big hunter that used Maxima, which could be really fucking cool, I'm not going to lie. Like I'm talking about, like I was saying with that Crush, pulling Crush, that is really cool. I'm not going to lie. So this makes it, better as a big hunter card. You can now fire your 10 drops into your opponent's face and they don't instantly die, and you're very happy about that. I'm not going to lie, I actually really like this. I hadn't initially, thought too much into it. Like, I was like, okay, it makes sense as a change. But, now that I'm really speaking it out loud, I really, really, really like this change to Maxima that I'm presenting. I really wish that we could get this. Open the cages. So, I don't know if any of you have ever actually played this card, but especially off of Bran, it's so goddamn impossible to get this card to trigger, it feels like. Because either you have a full board and you can't trigger this card, or you don't have a board and you can't trigger this card. It feels so hard to trigger having 2 minions. Having 1 minion is very easy. Having 2 minions is just so hard. So I'm thinking, why can't it just be 1 minion? If you control a minion, summon an animal companion. Secrets are supposed to be a little bit stronger than cards that have similar effects. So 2 mana to summon an animal companion still has the condition of having to have a minion to begin with. I think this is fine. It's significantly better. I would run this in Even Hunter, personally. I would. Getting an animal companion effectively for free is nice. You cheat it out, of course, with your Face Stalker, stuff like that. It is very nice. Like I'm saying, I would run this in Even Hunter in a heartbeat. I would probably... Actually, I don't know why I would cut. Probably Cat Trick. Cat Trick would be worse than this card, I would say. The issue with this card compared to like Cat Trick or Hidden Meaning or whatever is that those cards got to attack instantly. This card, the only one that can attack instantly is Huffer, which is really awkward. I think that if you really wanted to, you could just remove the if you control a minion part, because as long as it's at the start of your turn rather than like at the end of your opponent's turn, like, Cat Trick technically is, and definitely Hidden Meaning is, this card will always just not be that great. The Huffer high roll is huge, and that probably makes it good enough. Huffer, Misha, Leok are all still very powerful, especially if you're getting them for 2 mana. Patrick Palace says that perfectly. But it's hard to justify this secret, I would say. Yes, I would like to run it in Even Hunter, but would it be good? Probably not. Like I'm saying, I think if you made it end of turn, it would also lose the identity of Huffer having charge, because the other ones effectively have charge. So I don't know how you would fix that. I think the best way to do it is just remove the condition, right? When you just... So, I don't know. Just like when your turn starts, summon an animal companion. I'm not too sure how you do this. Like I'm saying, you could really... It probably should still have that if you control one minion, because controlling two minions is not... It's non-negotiable. It needs to be changed. Controlling one minion is fine, probably, but I think that it just... Being when your turn starts probably is the best for this card if you wanted it to actually be good, is what I'm getting at. Confection Cyclone. I really loved Grand Finale Mage when it was in Standard. I made a video about it in Wild recently, or not recently, I guess a few months ago at this point as well. So I think buffing, Confection Cyclone could be really cool. How I would do it, I would think Battlecry, add 2 1/2 sugar elementals to your hand, and summon a 1/2 sugar elemental. So now it gives you an additional 1/2 on your 2 mana 3/2, which is a lot of stats. That is a lot of stats, I will admit. But like Elemental Shaman or Elemental Mage sucks so much goddamn ass that like you need to give it cards that are like this. I'm gonna be honest with you. And then of course you get the 2 1/2s that help your Grand Finale or your other chaining of elementals, mage stuff. So there is that, but like Elemental Mage is so terrible. I have buffed Elemental Mage and Elemental Shaman every chance that I can get in this series because it is so truly terrible. It's one of, if not the worst tribal, just tribes in general ever. Like I think the only thing is worse is like Quillbores because Quillbores don't have any synergy. Elementals are truly fucking terrible. Like you had Elemental Shaman and United in Stormwind, and yeah, exactly. So I think like giving a big buff to Confection Cyclone like this, it's a huge buff. It's effectively 2 mana 4/4 in stats, which is significant. I'm not sure what else you would do to try and buff Elemental Shaman, but like you have to buff the early game because it's just non-existent. And then like I don't want to add like if you played an Elemental last turn, because I hate that effect. I don't think it works very well. I think that it's part of the reason Elementals suck, because no other tribe has like a condition that is so demanding on it, right? Because if you didn't play an Elemental last turn, you can't play your cards. What the fuck? No other tribe has that issue, and they're not even more powerful for it. Most Elementals aren't more powerful than cards similar to them. That's the thing. So I don't like it. I hate the mechanic. It doesn't make any sense to me. But Confection Cyclone adding, summoning a 1/2 as well, big deal. Grand Finale. So I don't think Grand Finale actually needs that big of a buff. I think this card, if it is 7 mana, is fine because of Hot Streak. Hot Streak would make this card cost 5. So if you're playing a Grand Finale Mage, you play 4 minions on turn 4, and then you Hot Streak Grand Finale on turn 5, and you get 5 8-drops, or 5 8/8s. That's pretty significant. That is genuinely significant for a turn 5. Yeah, in Wild, you gotta contest with, like, Rogue playing, 2 8/8s on turn 3, but 3 8/8s on turn 5 is quite hard to deal with. Mage has tools. Elemental Mage would be an aggro deck that is also doing this, so I don't think it's that big of a... that gigantic of a cost, is what I should say. It's not that big of a cost, right? Because you're actually wanting to be playing a lot of elementals, and then this is a big, big, big board flow. I think it should say elementals, repeat for each elemental you summoned last turn, though, because if you play Grand Finale into Grand Finale, then you would have, your board swing of your, giant Grand Finales. I think that makes a little more sense than just being played, because Grand Finale should probably still go into Grand Finale, it would make sense. So, yeah, I think that those tiny changes help a lot, and Grand Finale Mage is really fun. If you haven't played it, I would recommend checking it out. It's genuinely a lot of fun if you can make it work, so, yeah. Okay, this might be a controversial idea. Balloon Merchant, 4 mana 3/5, give your silver hand recruits +1 attack and Divine Shield, of course. What if, hear me out, 5 mana, and then give +2 attack? Okay, that might be really strong. I understand. Odd Shaman, Odd Priest, Odd Paladin has been terrible for a long time. Would giving a new 2 arms man that's a little bit better because it's Divine Shield rather than 2 health be too strong for the deck? Probably not. It still has a lot of the same issues that it already has of even getting that board in the first place to buff. So I'm not sure if that is a bad thing, but I think that this is a very significant buff to the card. It being 4 mana made it was pretty much like dead on arrival in Wild. Even Paladin doesn't really exist, and when it does exist, it doesn't care about hero powering enough for a card like this. So I think, give your Silver Heron Recruits +2 attack and Divine Shield is pretty damn good, especially because they get taunt from your what's it called? The 3 mana 3/4 Horse Rider guy that got buffed a million times. It gets taunt from that, and it gets taunt from your level up. So you can have like Divine Shield taunts against like certain decks, and it would make Odd Paladin more of a counterpick deck. It would make it better into like Questline Druid and your Kingsbane Rogue and things like that, which is arguably where you should have Odd Paladin as a style of deck, in my opinion, where it should be really good into these decks that don't care about Swarm at all. Like, how do I put it? It's not they don't care about Swarm, it's that they're not great into Swarm, so it makes it like so it actually can beat those decks more consistently. Questline Druid, any kind of like weapon style specific deck, those kind of decks are typically weak to Swarm, and they're already, Odd Paladin's already not great, so why not make it a little bit better in those matchups, is what I'm trying to get at. Hi, Exarch Urel. If your deck has no neutral cards, gain Lifesteal, Taunt, and Divine Shield. This card can be 6 mana in today's game, let's be honest here. There's a Ziliax that is like this. I think it's even the same stats. It's like everything about it is the same, except it does the 3 damage to you at the end of your turn, I think is the only difference. It might have more health, I don't remember. But it's 7 mana, and that card is not great in Wild, I would say. There's no reason to play it over Unkiliax, because any odd deck wouldn't want that Ziliax anyway. So Unkiliax is just supreme because it's already better, even though it's 1 more mana. So I think making Urel 6 mana makes it very strong. No neutrals in Paladin is a big thing. You want your Reno Lone Ranger, you want your Ziliax, you want stuff like that. So Urel preventing you from having that stuff, it should mean the card is very powerful. And I think at 6 mana, this is very powerful. Current 8 mana Urel is just genuinely terrible, so there's that as well. So currently, Gahoon is kind of like an okay card in your Reno Priests, because you're actually very happy, hitting your big pieces off of Gahoon. So I think, why can't it just be draw your 2 highest cost cards. Draw your 2 highest cost cards. And then they cost health instead of mana. It's already an 8 mana card, Gahoon the Blood God, so there is that. If you're going to Polkelt it, it's exactly the same as it is now, which is where you use this card, right, with Polkelt. So it basically just becomes better off of Polkelt, like not with Polkelt, and about the same with Polkelt, because you wouldn't be able to cheat out your like Reno Lone Ranger anyway. But now, if you played your Blooded Gahoon, you could get your Reno Lone Ranger on turn 8 or 7 or 8, I guess. But it would still cost you that 9 health, which is a lot. And then your other second highest card would probably be Amenthul, so you could save that, which is pretty significant. But again, you're taking 16 damage if you're playing those 2 cards. 9 plus 7, 16. I don't know why I said 18. Math isn't even that hard. But yeah, so you're taking 16 damage to play those cards, and you had to pay this 8 mana initial investment. That is pretty significant. Like, that's a lot of damage that you're taking just to play those cards. Yes, Reno Lone Ranger does technically heal you for 5, but like, whatever. And then Amenthul can heal you, but you don't have good healing in Reno Priest, to be honest. A lot of people aren't running Reno anymore, myself included, and seeing a lot of success without Reno. So that damage that you're taking is a lot more permanent. it actually does add up. So I think that doing it like this is pretty good. I'm going to be honest. Hysteria. Make it target your own minions again. Yeah, no. What is this formatting, dude? Okay, Hysteria, when it came out, was 3 mana, and it was good in Wild, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't nerf-worthy for Wild, and, you know, obviously Hysteria is still pretty good nowadays, so this would be a significant buff, but would it be too big of a deal? I'm not sure. It would be a pretty significant buff for Priest, but like I've said this a million times, you know, Reno Warlock, slow Warlock decks are struggling so immensely that, like, a buff to a card like Hysteria would be a significant buff. It makes it so you can kill 2 giants for a 3-mana card. You know, you already run Fight Over Me in Reno Priest sometimes just to do that alone. If you're facing a lot of giants, you'll run a 4-mana card that all it does is kill 2 giants. Nothing else. It's completely useless in almost every other, like, scenario, but it's just at its best to kill 2 giants. And would you run that for 3 mana? Hell yeah. Because I'm saying, you already run it for 4 mana. So that would be a huge buff to Warlock. And yeah, it's a huge buff to Priest as well. Reno Priest is already a pretty decent deck. It's like tier 2 right now. It's already pretty decent. Would this push Reno Priest to like tier 1? Not really, not even slightly. It would just help a little bit. But it would be a significant buff for Warlock because their cards are just so bad. Warlock cards are just so bad when they don't say discard and they don't say like take your own health, right? So like a traditional control Warlock is just not playable in any way. So a buff to Hysteria would help a lot. So Nitro Boost Poison was actually very strong in Wild before its nerf, of course in Standard. But, I say with a big but, it was good. Gosh, it was good in Wild because of Pirate Kingsbane. You don't play Pirate Kingsbane anymore. You play, you know, the traditional, like, fast draw style cycle through your deck Kingsbane, where you're just hitting your opponent with a big weapon. I don't think that Nitro Boost Poison would make that deck significantly better, because they only run 4 minions, so it's not that easy to get value off of this. And, you know, you have to corrupt it. I don't think this really helps Kingsbane rogue at all. However, it would help a traditional weapon rogue at weapon aggro rogue. Of course, that does mean possibly your pirate rogue. I will say it is possible that it helps fire rogue. But if you have like stealth rogue that I've talked about a million times, stealth rogue would enjoy this. You have like your stealth rogue and your hook scimitar because it's just a really efficient weapon, and you're not running pirates, so stuff like that. It would really benefit from giving a minion +2 attack and your weapon, and that's kind of what I like. I like stealth rogue a lot. I'm not even going to deny it. Like, stealth rogue is one of my favorite archetypes that we've ever had, and it's just never come back. Would Nitro Boost Poison help it? So much. So much. Because there's a lot of damage in one card. And stealth minions gain a lot of benefit from getting attack. A lot more than, like, pirates do, because the pirates aren't protected like the stealth minions are. So you could have your, pretty much guaranteed your damage from this Nitro Boost Poison. On the flip side, this is also a big buff to Warrior. Warrior kind of liked this card, right? It helped them get card draw from their cutting class. It helped just Pirate Warrior in general because it's just a very strong card. It is a really strong card. It might be too strong for Wild at 1 mana. I'm going to be honest with you. It might still be. But is that a risk I'm willing to take so I can play Stealth Rogue? Hell fucking yeah, dude. So yeah, Nitro Poison back to 1. I like it a lot. Malevolent Strike. So this was supposed to be part of like a shuffle kind of rogue that, again, just never really worked because the cards kind of suck. So I'm thinking, okay, destroy a minion, cost 1 less for each card that are in your deck that didn't start there. I think your hand and deck that didn't start there. Yeah, destroy 1, or cost 1 less for each card in your hand and deck that didn't start there. So it still works perfectly fine with a Shuffle Rogue, the exact way that it worked already. And it works well with Thief Rogue. Giving Thief Rogue a card like Malevolent Strike probably doesn't matter. Thief Rogue kinda sucks. The only Thief Rogue that sees play isn't necessarily a Thief deck, it's just a deck that abuses the Thief mechanic, and that's, the Pack Miracle Rogue. Pack Miracle Rogue can't really use this card because the only time you can ever discount it is like if you Finley the pack cards into your deck. I guess on the same turn you play Pack, Malevolent Strike would be good, but like, that's a 2-card combo. Yeah, it's 1 mana to destroy a minion, but like, so it's destroy 1 minion. That's not that crazy. Like, yeah, for 1 mana, it's strong. It is for 1 mana, but it's also like I'm saying, it's still 2 cards to do it. And like, it's just I don't think it would be that strong. I really don't. We have 2 mana destroy a minion in like Death Knight. Is 1 card worth 1 mana? To some people, yeah. So I would say it is. 1 card is worth 1 mana. Of course, there's, other beneficial synergies of, Pack being played, but I don't know. I think that's fine. I think it's fine, really. Maybe you could make it cost 6, right? You can make it cost 1 more so that it would still be 2 mana, and that would probably work. Probably would be more fair as well to make it work with Pack like that rather than just being, 0 mana with Pack. It's probably more fair like this, but does it really matter for a Thief Rogue regularly? I don't think so at all. But like I'm saying, this would be nice for regular Thief Rogue would love this card even at 6 mana. But I'm saying for like a Pack Miracle Rogue is what I'm trying to talk about. It wouldn't matter anyway. You wouldn't run Malevolent Strike. I know I rambled on that because it's hard to get my thought process out, but if you understand what I mean, you understand what I mean. Anara Storm Crash. This one's a really simple change. You just knock this down to 4 mana. This card, not even close to too strong for Wild at this 4 mana, 4/5 stat line. Not even close. It's probably a significant buff to Even Shaman. I think Even Shaman would like this card. Even Shaman already runs, some weapons. You run Chisel, and in the past you would run the Axe, Splitting Axe. You don't really run Splitting Axe anymore, but if you have Anara Stormcrash, you would probably be more likely to run, weapons that deal damage, or just, in general, Aggro Shaman hasn't really been a thing in, like, over half a decade, probably even more. So Anara would probably help that out a lot if there were a push for an Aggro Shaman. You would run this in Elemental Shaman because it's just really powerful, and Elemental Shaman already ran Anara in, like, United and Stormwind. So there's nothing really crazy about that. I just like this change a lot. I think it would make Anara significantly better to the point that it might see play. In the same vein as Anara, I think you buff Whack-A-Null Hammer. I don't think a 2-mana 3/2 weapon with this effect would be fair, but a 2-mana 2/2 weapon would be 100% fair. It probably wouldn't even be that great, I'm going to be honest, but giving it a 3/2 would probably be too strong, I'm going to be honest with you, even for Wild standards. Even Shaman would just abuse it so goddamn well, because they always have a minion when they're swinging, so it'd be significantly better. So making a 2/2 just a little bit of future-proofing, especially because, say, with Anara, it would have 4 attack, or 5 if it were to still be 3. I think these cards are very just well-designed in general. Like, I think the idea of a weapon attacking Shaman makes a lot of sense, and I think Whack-A-Null Hammer is a great design for that deck because it makes it so your weapon also benefits your minions, right? And you want to be playing minions. You don't want to just be attacking face because your weapons aren't really that face-oriented. And Anara is really good at going face, but you don't have a weapon that really benefits that much from Anara as it is. So, that's why I think, Whack-A-Null Hammer also buffing your minions, great card for that, because even if you do have Anara, your Anara is going to be a 6/7 on... Is that too strong? Do you play Whack-A-Null Hammer on 2, and then you coin Anara on 3, and then it's a 6/7? And you just dealt 8 to your opponent's face? Is that too good? That might be too good, actually. Shit. That might be too good. Whatever, I don't care. It's not like it makes that deck suddenly broken. It would just be really strong. That is specific combo, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think any deck really benefits from it that well. I'm gonna be honest. That might be too strong, though, actually. If you played Zoo Warlock during, Darkmoon Faire era, you probably remember Benari Mosher. This card is so fun. It was fun to play with, I'm gonna be honest with you, and it's quite powerful. I think it's a pretty simple change. You just knock it down to a 2-mana 2/3, and then maybe +2 attack. And lifesteal is a significant thing. Probably +3 attack is probably fair, but I feel like the lifesteal makes it so that is significant, but I'm not too sure. The reason I think that this is completely fine, though, is because of what's it called? Ash Tongue Slayer, which is a 2 mana 3/2, give a stealth minion plus 3 attack and immune. So I feel like, give a demon plus 3 attack and lifesteal is probably within the same ballpark. Ash Tongue Slayer, of course, I already talked about. It's one of my favorite cards because I like Stealth Rogue so much. That card was very strong, and Minari Monster was very strong. So, would this help? I think so. Zoo Warlock doesn't really exist in Wild. It's more been drowned out by Discard Warlock, mainly because they don't print strong Zoo Warlock cards, is kind of part of it. So, the Zoo Warlock cards they do print are typically discard-based. So, it's kind of like Zoo is bad, because all we print is Discard Warlock cards, and then Discard Warlock is better than Zoo because all we print is Discard Warlock cards. You get what I mean? They just aren't printing Zoo support almost ever. The last time they did was for Standard Imp Warlock, and that wasn't playable in Wild at all. Sludge Warlock isn't really a Zoo deck, but it was pretty decent in Wild. I would say it was a tier 4 deck before the nerf, and as a complete standard deck. I didn't even play it or see people playing a Wild version of that. I saw people playing the complete standard version of Sludge Warlock in Legend and doing quite well. So I think if you actually worked that deck to be a Wild deck, it probably would have been, a tier 3 deck before the nerfs. I'm going to be honest with you. It was quite strong. So, Zoo Warlock doesn't really exist. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So Minari Monster can have this kind of buff. In the same vein of Zoo Warlock and Minari Monster and this expansion, Revenant Rascal. Destroy a mana crystal for each player. You just make this 2 mana. I think this card could be a 2 mana 3/3. I'm going to be honest. Maybe not. Maybe a 2 mana 3/2. But I don't think that it would be too strong if we're overstated. I'm going to be honest. It is a downside to destroy your own mana crystal. It is, but you're also destroying your opponent's mana crystal, which makes sense. I think this card is completely fair at this thing. It doesn't even have the demon tag because it's a Revenant, not a demon. So it doesn't benefit that well from tribal synergies, which is usually how aggro decks go in Wild. Is tribal is the best way to make them work. So there is that, but I think this would be a good buff. I think that Revenant Rascal provides a good style for Zoo Warlock because you're keeping the mana of the game very cheap. So if your cards are a little bit weaker, that's fine because your opponent can't play their expensive cards. And that's kind of what Zoo Warlock is. It's kind of weak. So buffing Revenant Rascal would help. Ringmaster's Baton. After your hero attacks, give a mech, dragon, and pirate in your hand +1/+1. I think it should say, after your hero attacks, give 3 minions with a tribe. Or minions of different types in your hand +1/+1. This is so significantly stronger because mech, pirate, dragon isn't easy to do for a Menagerie Warrior currently. Menagerie Warriors are running totems, mechs, quillboars, and pirates, right? Because you're running these super cheap pirates, and you can't really fit dragons in there, right? You can't really fit big pirates in there. Your only pirate is Risky Skipper. You have the 0 mana totem. You have Target Dummy. You have Razorfen Rockstar, stuff like that, right? So this would be a pretty significant buff to those cards to give them more health. I think you could actually make the argument to just do this, and then in your hand, +1 health. And nothing else, and this would also be very powerful. I'm going to keep it like this because I like this, and I'm going to, send this to my friend, Magma Rager, the guy that does all the Menagerie decks. I think that he would like this, for a Menagerie Skipper Warrior, right? Because giving all the minions in your hand +1 health means that you can gain more armor from your Armor Smith and stuff like that. So you would enjoy this a lot. And it's not like Ringmaster's Baton is a great card currently anyway, so changing its effect like this would be pretty fine, I'm going to be honest. Same idea with Ringmaster's Baton, Ringmaster Watley, draw 3 minions of different types. Oops. I know this is boring. I know it is. I'm not, but it makes it more in line with what I changed to Baton. Just draw 3 minions of different types. It's better. It is just better to have this on this card. It is significantly better. It also, like, I don't even know. Like, specifying different types fits a lot better than just, like, specifying what tribes they are, because Warrior really does like running the 0-mana totem. It really does. It's so good for your skipper. It's so good for your skipper. It's so good for your skipper. That's the only thing that matters. It's just great for skipper. And skipper is the best way to play a Menagerie Warrior. It's the best way to play Combo Warrior. It's the best way to play Warrior, to be honest with you. So why would you not want to benefit your skipper? Carnival Clown. Anyone that played in this era knows about Clown Druid. Anyone that played Wild in this era knows about Clown Druid. Clown Druid was incredibly powerful. I think Clown Druid, again, is one of the best kind of ramp Druids. I think that Druid should be able to ramp into very powerful minions, but not be... I don't like when Druid ramps into combo. I think that Druid ramping into combo is inherently toxic for the game. I think that ramping into giant minions is a lot better for the game because they're still very lethal and they're still very powerful, but it means your opponent has a lot more agency in the game rather than just like, oh, you got to like 13 mana on like turn 7, which is very, very doable. Actually, that's probably not even that big of a high roll. And then you just kill your opponent from hand and they couldn't really do anything about it, right? So now it's more like, okay, my opponent plays a board of minions and then I can clear that. Then they keep repeating it because that's how like the clowns and stuff work, right? So I think the first thing you can do is you just bump this down to 8, and then I think you make this a 4/5. Minor health buff is nice. Actually, I don't like that. No, I think the other way around. Minor attack buff, because now it makes it so that the Carnival Clowns are more likely to kill your opponent when you have a full board of them. Instead of 28 damage for 4s, it's 35 damage because it's 5. But it's still the same ability to be cleared because it's 4 health. I was thinking of it the other way around, right? Where it would be harder to clear the Carnival Clown board, but I think that you should be able to clear the Carnival Clown board. 4 health dies to Chaos Nova pretty well. And then, Chaos Nova off Zephyrus is 4, rather than Flame Strike, which is 7 mana. Chaos Nova, of course, is 5 mana. So you don't have to pay 9 whole mana just to clear 1 board of Carnival Clowns. So, yeah, I think this is pretty nice. Wow, who could have guessed? Another card that fits this sort of ramp-style Druid that I would rather push than Combo Druid. Strongman. Wow. Shocking, I know. If you play your Scale of Onyxia, now you can play your Strongman on the same turn. Broken, I know. Oh! This is such a simple change. I don't even think anything else about it needs to be changed. It just makes it easier to corrupt. You were never playing it for 7 mana anyway. It's just like, it's easier to corrupt because you want to be playing your Scale of Onyxia anyway, a lot of the time. So Strongman makes a lot of sense. And then this isn't specifically for Cthulhu the Chatter. This is for all of the old gods. I think all of the old gods can go to 8 mana. In Caverns of Time, they buffed Cthulhu to 8 mana, regular Cthulhu. So I don't see any reason why all of the old god, every single old god, I'm talking about every single one, to 8 mana. I don't think that would be an issue at all. All of them are currently unplayable. The only old god that can be played is Yogg-Saron Unleashed, and that card is quite good, but I'm not talking about that one, of course. I'm talking about the Whispers of the Old Gods and the Darkmoon Faire versions of the old gods. I think all of them should go to 8 mana just across the board. I just chose Cthulhu because, I don't know, it's cool. If they go to 8 mana, I don't even think it makes any of them playable. Maybe N'Zoth gets better. I say gets better, not playable. Just gets better. But that's about it. I mean, they're all terrible, all the old gods, so I don't think anyone would argue that putting them to 8 does anything. But, yeah, that's going to be it for me. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think down below. Do you like any of the card changes I proposed? Do you think that I should have changed other cards? Do you dislike any of them? Tell me what you think down below. I'm hosting a giveaway for people who subscribe to my channel. If you like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your favorite card is down below. You can join. And then I'm hosting one for YouTube members where you can join through that as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Rising again!
Darker than they've ever been.